against Beast Coast. They look sharp, they look diligent, they look quick on their feet, and they look poised to take that best of 3 easily. They took a 13-7 on both Haven and Bind, their best map. But the thing is, this is a little bit different of a best of 3, right? They no longer have that higher seed. They're not going to have their favorite map pick of Bind. They're playing on a map that they haven't played too often. Haven will be their map pick, but Ascent being that second map, that's when things do indeed really get dicey for FaZe, because it's a map that they in the past haven't performed too well on, with only 3 wins and 9 losses.
Christ, I didn't realize that it was that one-sided in favor of them, but it really goes to show that, I mean, they're comfortable in it. I think at this point, a lot of teams are comfortable on basically every map. I mean, obviously teams have the maps that they favor and et cetera, et cetera. We can talk about this all day, but Haven just seems like the home territory for the side of FaZe here. We saw them with phenomenal results yesterday, and I'm just kind of interested in seeing if Gen.G really have anything to, I guess, maybe swap up here. Going to be starting out on the defense. I want to take an eye, or keep an eye, excuse me, on their CT setup, because right now they have very little presence whatsoever over towards A. You notice that there is a tripwire over by CT, which could be at least somewhat notable. Oh, I'm trying to do the observing here. My sensitivity is not usually this high, but, you know, they overall have almost zero presence whatsoever towards A, and I think that's kind of interesting, different than what Gen.G I think normally do as part of their default hold.
Yeah, this is definitely a little bit strange coming out from Gen.G, right? You normally have the Cypher, I believe that's MkaeL, if not player one, kind of holding on this A site, being that solo lurker, playing that solo anchor, but they leave nothing. BABYBAY already expects exactly to be where the tripwire is, and he's a guy that we saw all day yesterday, especially in pistol rounds, especially in the round after. He'll hold on to that frenzy. He loves to get very aggressive with it, and I think at this point, he's thinking about going hunting. He's in the heavens, trying to gain some ground for the rest of his team, and Gen.G, it's a slow but careful process. It's a good retake setup so far. You've got 3 players coming in from the defender side, 2 players coming in from the A flank. You're going to have this crunch setup. If you can win your duels towards A long, you've got a really great setup to take this site.
Yeah, for sure. But player one, I mean, I'm not sure if he's going to be ready for Marved, and that's a big issue, isn't it? When he just kind of jumps in with a classic, it's going to be nigh impossible to do much of anything. And he didn't even need help. FaZe are going to be able to easily clean that up. And really, from the get-go, they had a solid read on everything that Gen.G were going to try to do. The retake setup was completely snuffed out just by a single player in Marved. There was obviously just the quick push over towards A, where the site was basically deserted. And it felt like Gen.G were never in that round, quite honestly.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got players like Marved, I mean, we talked again about the confidence that FaZe have been having in this past day, or the past day where they were in those 3 best of 3s, how confident they look. When you've got individuals like Marved that are really feeding and seething with that confidence, he will be willing to take those 1vx's, and when he's the only player holding that lurk, boy, you've got faith in him, and he does so much there to win that round for his team entirely. Nails it in the confidence. Now there's no chance for Gen.G in this round, it looks like already. Up close, player one's able to pick off Marved, but there should be nothing else, as FaZe are very good at holding these retakes, and they find themselves with a man up, and even more so with better firepower than their opponents.
Oh no, and I think the worst part too is that unfortunately Iman just kind of teleported on top of the A default box and kind of left himself open. It looks a little bit funny from the third person, but they were completely blind, as we saw from the cam, and nothing you can do about that. This already wasn't looking incredible for the side of Gen.G, but they've actually made it way more competitive than I think anyone would have guessed. Down into 2v2 we go, and Corey kind of bleeding internally, not looking too good. Eventually he's going to be all left on the Rawkus, but time is of the essence, and he knows exactly how to play the time. He doesn't even need to see the enemies, and he will still find both kills. Rawkus with an incredible finish to that round. Basically, kind of kept the dream alive for FaZe, because really Gen.G as a whole were so close to being able to take that one, where I'm still not confident that FaZe are going to be looking incredibly comfortable heading into this next one.
Yeah, Rawkus overall has just been very deadly in those clutches. I remember last night, in that final best of 3 against Beast Coast, map 1 or map 2 of Bind, he had a double kill with a shock dart. So he's always cool, calm, and collected. He knows he's got to be the player to clutch it out, especially when you're that Sova in these retake scenarios. It works out wonders for them. But even better, so I'd say here for Gen.G, is the key point with FaZe is that BABYBAY, he would normally be holding on to a frenzy, but because of the damage that was done in the last round, he doesn't want to risk it. He doesn't want to force the fact that his team will have to buy around him. So FaZe losing those 4 players, they really haven't had a game where a pistol round, the round to fall, they haven't really been challenged. They would have this bonus, but Gen.G do so much damage. FaZe are a little bit broken here, and while this should be a clean round, Gen.G really putting on this pressure in the early stages, and even in this situation, I'd still write Gen.G up for a couple more frags as GMD absurd shots here on the A bombs, like quick 2K, and it's actually put into perspective. 2 frags more to find, make it just the one. And FaZe, it's a little bit close, and GMD's not done just yet. Rawkus finally puts him down, but again, you cannot write Gen.G off, and damage dealt, and FaZe will have to reinvest into 3 more rifles.
And again, it's just that economic, turpitude that they have to undergo, and that really kind of hurts them from being able to set up a solid economy. And in the early games, or in the early rounds, excuse me, that's going to matter a ton, because FaZe, at least from what I saw yesterday, they got off to incredibly fast rolling starts. 8-0, 9-0 was not an uncommon scoreline to see. They, from what I've seen, feel very much like a momentum-based team. So being ground down to a halt obviously would help them a bit, but I don't know what Gen.G exactly need to switch up. They're doing some good economic damage, sure, but now that they have rifles in their hands, I have incredibly high expectations. I want to see GMD pull off the same stuff that he was previously, just with that Sheriff in hand, only, with a better rifle.
Oh, this is such a peculiar setup as well, because I feel like FaZe, they might be in that same mental where, okay, the A site of Haven is going to be guarded just by one Cypher. They'll be playing retake. But look at the investment so far that Gen.G have made. They've got 3 players here. Shawn playing just around the corner alongside his teammates. I mean, they've got a really strong setup. Even a 4th, huynh is not too far off, and Shawn's getting aggressive well, and he's a man that was on a yesterday. Average combat score 265. We'll see if he can up that just a little bit more. GMD though, popping heads, takes one down, but Corey a little bit better than huynh. Faster on the trigger, the operator shot misses, and FaZe, they've taken the site cleanly. Even if they lose 2 players, the spike will go down, if only temporarily. And Gen.G, it's the retake that has to commence.
This isn't actually terrible though. Okay, now it is. Now it definitely is after player 1 went down, but there's easily things that can go wrong as GMD will definitely show off. It's not going to be really a highlight-worthy clip at the end of it because Corey's waiting around the corner. But again, I was about to toss it off to you, but of course GMD is just able to get a nice little lineup, bring it to 4 kills for him in that round, but it's still not going to be enough. And Gen.G, once again, that's going to be the big struggle that I was mentioning. They can't piece together an actual round, and they're going to be back onto something very, very unkind to the economical state of them. More Sheriffs and a Bulldog, I suppose, for GMD, but otherwise, I mean, you're kind of looking at potentially a throwaway round here for GMD, or for Gen.G, excuse me.
Yeah, this one definitely doesn't seem too pretty. They definitely do have some weapons to cause some damage. GMD not putting any pressure off. Last few rounds, he's definitely been the highlight so far for Gen.G, doing everything he can to help his team find that early success. This round, it doesn't look like going to have much FaZe. I like it so far. Good signs of early aggression. I like the confidence. It still seems that even against the teams that they played yesterday, right? Monkey, Pick Me Up, even Beast, because you want to call it, that was their first real challenge since the new revitalization, I'd say. FaZe definitely seem like they're still confident, especially against a team like Gen.G, arguably a top 4 team in North America, and I'd put them in contention for a top 10 team in the world. FaZe still look strong. They still look like they want to take the fights. They want to get aggressive. They want to bother Gen.G with their aggressiveness, and so far, it's worked out extremely well, except for when you've got GMD that's left in a clutch, and you definitely cannot write him off in this one. A 1v2, an operator in hand, but it already looks like he's thinking to save.
Probably their best sort of action at the moment. Take a gander at Gen.G's economy. They have 5 ultimates available, which is nice, but I mean, I don't know. Things are still a little bit spooky for them. I'm trying to think, like, what can Gen.G rely on a little bit more here? I kind of like the idea of some of the aggressive fights that they're taking over at A. Very big switch up from what we saw just in that pistol round, for instance. But again, as you mentioned, FaZe seem incredibly comfortable to take these fights when, your duelist, BABYBAY, really hasn't even felt like been the most actionable of FaZe members. That's how I know things are not exactly looking the best. I mean, Gen.G really cannot win a single fight against anybody, it feels like.
Take flight.
Yeah, so far, I mean, FaZe, they definitely are putting on the pressure again. quick early owl drone. I think that was from Rawkus to try and open things up. And it's a split that we've seen before here from FaZe. It works out exceptionally well because they take that early garage control, a simple smoke, a simple pink shell grenade, and they've got the site basically. Corey jumping around trying to avoid this Hunter's Fury. Takes a little bit of damage, but FaZe, so far so good. 5-on-5 retake, and Gen.G, instead of opting to play A site retake, which most teams will do, they have to do the C site instead. And look at the aggressive positions that FaZe are taking. 3 in garage, and it's being swarmed here.
Yeah, this is such an interesting post-plant setup. Thing is, though, it's actually really, really good. You see that Gen.G are trying their best to fight up against it, but it's really easy to trade each other out when you're in a situation like this. They even get a detain out of it for good measure, but this round basically has to be called off from the start. Gen.G can't do much to actually pincer and break down the defense that Gen.G have decided to set up in the post plant, and it's unique. I don't feel like I've seen a lot of teams actually play in garage as their choice to end out the round, but my god, it definitely did them wonders. Again, trades being incredibly strong, all the evasive maneuvers being well done by FaZe. We'll go ahead and put them up now 6-0. And again, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I think about whenever I see momentum with FaZe. This is kind of what I think a lot of people were hoping, maybe not expecting, but hoping when they saw this FaZe roster. You know, 4 past Overwatch players, and then you have Marved with the MDL ESEA advanced experience, you know, been around the block in TAC FPSs. And I'm honestly really impressed with how FaZe have looked for this entire UMG qualifier. Not even having to particularly, you know, flip the script, do anything all too crazy. That's going to be all on Gen.G. As you see now, they're starting to aggress out towards mid solely.
Yeah, I mean, FaZe, they haven't had any struggles, I feel like, throughout this entire bracket, right? Their side of the bracket, arguably probably one of the easiest. Beast Coast, I think, was the hardest challenge, and even then, they swept them under the rug 13-7 on both the maps that they played. So FaZe, this was going to be their first real challenge. The mentality going into this, it's going to definitely be a little bit different, a shift from such an easy opening 3 best-of-3s to one that's of such high caliber, but clearly FaZe, they've shifted that mentality swimmingly well, and Marved as well seems to shift right into it. First frag is his. huynh does end up trading it back, though. We do still have a 4v3 with the spike down, and GMD's flicking out another. There's still 3 to find, and Corey's already on such low HP here, Kieran. There's really a chance that Gen.G could find themselves back into this round quickly.
But the aggression needs to begin quickly. That spike is really starting to kick at this point, and time is going to be of the essence. This is a 3v5, you have to mention, for Gen.G to overcome. But again, they don't have the time. I think even now, if they get on the bomb, it's too little, too late. GMD has to get away, and unfortunately, it's not the enemies on FaZe that are actually going to go ahead and finish them off. It's a timer.
Ooh. Saved by the bell, truly. 7-0 FaZe. This is not the start that you expected from Gen.G, but undoubtedly, we didn't expect it from FaZe, right? I mean, we've been praising them for that aggressive style, but truthfully, I thought Gen.G, with their passivity style, with their ability to sit back on sites, really force their opponents to walk into their crosses and get aggressive when they need. Maybe that's what they need to get more aggressive, right? Have Shawn, huynh try and open things up, really pressure the map control that FaZe are gaining. And even then, FaZe are really only going for certain aspects of the map. The key thing, I think, with FaZe's offense right now is that they're not predictable. They'll send one player super aggressive down C long, whether that be Marved, whether that be Corey, and then they'll switch it up instantly with BABYBAY out towards A long, and here it is again. BABYBAY straight into the site is trying to open up some space, and he gifted his team that, but unfortunately these crossfires being held are clean here from Gen.G, but they've relieved them of the site now, and FaZe once more have got another retake in their hands, and this time 3v3.
Already looking a little bit better, but you have to be aware that player 1 lurks in heaven, and of course the artillery doesn't exactly favor the bold side of of Gen.G. As you see, GMD, speaking of the devil, actually does appear on flank and find that first kill. Player 1 is really the one that I'm kind of worried about. This is still a very winnable 1v3, I feel like. Even still, with the odds being stacked against him, Marved has that experience, and he has a bomb ping for him. That's some more time, but I think that's just about it. Bomb has already made it halfway, and finally, Gen.G get one on the board. So luckily, Upmind isn't here to see that Brazilian scoreline, because I'm sure he's going to be having some bitter thoughts about it. As honestly, I'm pretty sure Gen.G feel the exact same way. A little bit bitter, but they get that first round. GMD goes nuclear, still sitting at 13 kills for this game. Has done wonderful work for his team. And now it's finally starting to pay off. That momentum still holds for FaZe at the same time, I want to mention solely. So I don't know. I think this will be a round where you see something a bit slower dictated by them.
Yes.
Yeah, so far it's FaZe. I mean, it's a good side take regardless. It comes down to those 1v1s. Marved had a very similar clutch in a very exact same position, except for a different map. It was a 1v3 on Vine, smoke in his face, and he just sprays through. And honestly, you were right. I was concerned there for a second, Gen.G, knowing how capable Marv is in those 1vx's, how great he's been all tournament long. Gen.G, you really got to be aware of these individuals, and thankfully they shut that down. They don't let any more confidence go to the head of Marv, and if it did, that's when he becomes a really dangerous prospect for the likes of Gen.G's, that aggressive style, especially on the likes of an Omen when you've already got BABYBAY and Corrigan so aggressive. And look at Marv already. Speaking of aggressiveness, he's lurked his way all the way through B. He's got the B bomb site in the hand of his Omen, and now it's up to Gen.G to try and figure out what's going on. Marv can just sit here and wait. He's going to be waiting for his rotation. He may even get a first pick. Corey, though, is clinical with the headshot, and huynh goes down. That's opened up the site, and look at Marv starting to move. Look at the gears starting to churn in his head as he takes another one down. One more to go, and that's the site, and that's the round. 8-1 FaZe, spiked down and everything, and there's no chance for MkaeL to find his way back into this one.
Revealing area.
This is just straight up brilliant
30
from
seconds
FaZe.
left.
Quite honestly, they
Spike
had the
planted.
number of Gen.G, and I just kind of, showed off their entire CT setup to the world. There is just absolutely nothing that can be done about that. Marv somehow anchored himself in to a spot that you might see a defender. Not quite someone who's on attack, especially so early, but the B bomb site is found completely deserted. Thing is, like, that's not a situation that you would see, think of the scripts being flipped right there. FaZe would never let that happen because ZachaREEE almost always anchors all of his utility over towards B. So what Marv just pulled off right there is kind of unique to how Gen.G like to play their defensive setup. And that is incredibly worrying, I think, for obvious reasons, as they're now going to be stuck on a bit more of an eco. You'll see the push right in towards C. There's going to be no hesitation, no complications whatsoever as they take it over. And solely, I think now we're going to be seeing a 9-1 scoreline just based off of what I see right here, right now.
It's been pretty stellar so far for
Spike planted.
FaZe
Here.
and G, but you can never count them on these pistols. If player one is able to find something, I think the turret is now online. So yeah, never mind. Position revealed. 2 players ready for the swing. 1 bolt left in the Sheriff. Doesn't connect on the BABYBAY's head. And instead, the knives will find their mark. GMD with the Stinger, at least able to do a little bit of damage. This is all about trying to pull weapons away, but BABYBAY really didn't have anything to lose there. They've already got so much cash, and yeah, do what you may, GMD. It's not going to be able to do much. ZachaREEE and Rawkus locking it down out towards the bottom of the sea. Long and huynh really do anything they can, and unfortunately, it's now just down to huynh. FaZe 9-1, a clean C-side execution, a good read on their half. They know that Gen.G have been stacking that A site. The presence is minimal on the site, so they risk that kind of play. TP Marved in alongside BABYBAY, sending them forward. And FaZe, it's so far been very cool and calm. And Gen.G, it's really hard to read what can you do against this style of FaZe.
I'm trying to think of like some sort of, I guess analysis that I can bring to this here. But even when I have the bird's eye view, even though I have the all-seeing eye, really what I'm seeing is just, in a lot of cases, incredibly smart rotation from FaZe. Smart rotations, I should say, from FaZe. It's more than just a single rotation. Trust me on that. It seems that FaZe can be everywhere at once. They're omnipresent in the server. And it is, again, incredibly suffocating to play against. Now, what they've decided to do to try to switch things up here, Gen.G, is bringing the fight to FaZe, which I enjoy and actually is usually my go-to recommendation for when you're having complications in the server like this. And it seems to be working out just fine, solely. We find ourselves in a 1-on-5 with barely any time scraped off the clock. And it should be now a healthy recipe for a second round on the side of Gen.G. Save for any extremities being brought out by ZachaREEE, which will not indeed come to fruition, and I guess the Gen.G experiment still stays alive, but FaZe, this is kind of a pace that they can swap. They've already put together in a phenomenal attacking side. I don't really see any further issues being found from here. FaZe, they don't have to kind of bring that pace up into this round as well,
Yeah, I mean, this first half, I mean, they're probably, you don't want to get complacent, though. I think that's the big thing. But FaZe will be very happy with the result that they've got so far in this first half. A 10th round would just be the icing on the cake. And what a way for Gen.G to pick up the second, right? Like you mentioned, bring the fight to them. And again, I think huyhn's going to do more or less the same. And this time, he's got the other big hitter, Shawn. Those two were the dynamic duo for Gen.G yesterday. Let's see if they can
Wow.
tally something up here for them. The Hunter 3 are called out very early, but Shawn isn't phased by whatsoever. Dismissed, and he's out of there. Takes down the Nanostorm grenade as well. And aggressiveness here from Gen.G. It's in the later stages of the first half, but you know what they say, better late than never. And Gen.G look on track to take a third round finally.
It just makes me think, like, you know, what happens if they called a tactical pause and try to figure this out early? What kind of half could we be looking at in that case? Because it felt like FaZe just, you know, I don't know. They haven't been phased at all by this early aggression that Gen.G have brought. Still, they push in. Still, they try to press W into the A bomb site. And really, the only thing that can stop them is probably going to be this, I don't know, maybe a teleport on a flank? I don't know. I mean, these ultimates kind of feel nigh useless when it comes to actually trying to make a dent. TP for information doesn't find anything,
that's all I wanted.
for sure.
Yeah, I didn't see anything. I was going to say Rawkus is already tucked away out towards long. And so far, it's a pretty strong setup. Corey's even got the showstopper if he wants to. A very well-timed Cypher cage in player one. I think he just seen the tip of his head as well. Out goes Corey, and down goes Shawn with a rocket. Popping out from beneath. ZachaREEE's got to hold the line. He's got one bullet left. His mag and not enough aim to hold him down. Gen.G will pick up the third round, if ever so barely. Barely enough time with that spike. Let's see exactly how much. 4 seconds. Okay, never mind. They had plenty of time. Gen.G, though, third round to end off the half. Not too bad of an ending, 2 rounds in a row, but FaZe overall, all about confident, don't get complacent, and they have a very confident half ahead of them.
I think it's also kind of interesting to note the kill-death ratios of all the players in the server at the moment. I feel like Gen.G, you know, they have managed to make a lot of these rounds close with FaZe. I think come attacking side, Gen.G, they've swapped up their style since bringing in Shawn to the roster. It's going to be what feels like a comfortable shift for them. However, I'm not really focused on Gen.G at the moment. I'm more keeping an eye on the setup that FaZe have currently going on their CT, on their defensive round, that is, excuse me.
It's actually working well, though, right? 5 players out here from Gen.G, 4 players stacked, and I think FaZe, they did this before, I want to say, against Beast Coast, and it actually worked out perfectly because you leave just that Killjoy to set up turrets, really play contact on C. But this is interesting from FaZe just due to the positions that they're taking. Crossfire has been held on both long and short, and the slow progression here from Gen.G. It looks like FaZe are in a pretty good position. I think take this round, especially with that Alodrone getting that information, keeping Gen.G on their toes. But Corey, I think, gets a little bit too aggressive there. But Marved will make sure he doesn't go down in vain. Trades it out for a 4v4.
Now we enter the lull of the mid-round. Luckily, the fatalities were relatively minimal on the attacking side, so Gen.G can live to fight another day, shift it over to the other side of the map completely, where there's only a Swarm Grenade really ready to greet them. The rotates are going to be a little bit late, and it's going to come in the form of 3 players on FaZe. Another Swarm Grenade at the ready. Might be popped to hold and choke out that close angle by the box, and I believe, who is it now? huynh is trying to hold, but he's not warded off. Now this is a very comfortable position for the other side, Gen.G. Being able to anchor down onto the site is going to be a very welcome sight for them here. Dark coming in isn't going to find anything whatsoever, but the first kill will actually go the way of BABYBAY. Trades do come in, but they're kind of mediocre. For the most part, Gen.G aren't able to do much of anything, and yeah, there you have it. Clean indeed. Wait, player one, how has he actually made this possible? Never mind. I mean, it's still going to be a win for FaZe, but I mean, Gen.G, they keep it close, even on these rounds that they lose. That has been a running trend for literally the entire game, that at this point, I shouldn't even be surprised by them at any point.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that it's going to be a theme we see with FaZe as well. So long as they have this insurmountable lead. It happened against Beast Coast. It was, I think, like, or not Beast Coast, against Monkey. It was like 12-3, and they just started chasing. Or no, it was against Beast Coast. It was down to a 1v3, and it came down to a 1v1 where ZachaREEE had to pull them out. So I mean, FaZe overall, ZachaREEE especially didn't need to run through that dark cover. He could have just stuck around with his team, waited for it to fade, and then boom, you've got a straight line of sight on a dude that's 22 HP. Thankfully, their teammate Marved had a frenzy in his hand to clutch out the round, but it didn't need to go that far. So FaZe, good retake as well. Again, we're going to keep on speaking that aggressiveness from BABYBAY, how he wants to open up things. Even on that attack side, we saw how much space he's creating, and that retake draws so much attention away to allow the other players from defender spawn to work their way into the sites, and the rest is history. FaZe, they look good opening things up in the second half, but does that trend continue with Gen.G trying to storm back down by 7 rounds?
This is going to be incredibly scary, though. The force up is indeed in effect. And really, Rawkus
Oh,
isn't letting
Rawkus.
anything slip by. 2 kills found, and slowly we have ourselves another round on the plate here, and it's still not stopping. Gen.G, they don't even need to get that spike down, and already they're fragging out hard. We find ourselves in the 3v2, favoring the attacking side, favoring the bold. However, there's still one little linchpin that FaZe have yet to show off, and that comes in the form of BABYBAY. Slowly walking up towards short, is going to wait and coordinate with his teammate Corey before they actually look to push in.
Oh, and it's the fact that it's a Bucky. This man has been so good on it. How does it work out this time, though? He needs to get close. He needs to get aggressive, draw some shots. Corey, that's a great first kill. Spots a second, BABYBAY. That's unreal. The boost on up and drops on down, but no heads have been dropped. No kills have been found, and BABYBAY will be the one going down. Gen.G somehow pull it out, and Shawn finds Gen.G their 4th round. Miraculously, FaZe have lost that one, and Gen.G, maybe a little bit of a mistake from FaZe's side. They might have just given Gen.G the life and the strength they need to continue fighting in this first map.
That is just unbelievable. I mean, still a really beautiful attempt, I have to say, from FaZe, coordinating that retake rather well. You, I guess, necessarily can't even fault Corey nor BABYBAY for not having that 2v1 work out. The Bucky, you know, it's very noticeable downsides were incredibly noticeable right there in particular. Incredibly apparent. I think that's the fancier word that I'm looking for here. And right now you're seeing nothing all too fancy. A bit more of a mid-presence being brought out from FaZe on this round that otherwise you might call a throwaway. It seems that they're more searching for info. These aren't fights that they can realistically win, even in the best of scenarios. And every time they try to extend for something early, they're just going to get completely caught off guard. Again, we swap to the pistol POV almost every single time, but you see how it works out. It's going to be a flawless one. Gen.G having no problems whatsoever dealing with the, I guess, information banking plays that FaZe are trying to pull out there. That was, again, what feels like a throwaway round. I'm not too perturbed by that one not going the way of FaZe, or even them not finding a kill. I don't think is all too bad.
This goes here.
Not in the slightest. Fortunately, though, they will be locking any financials if they do lose this round. Gen.G still holding on to the Spectres and the Bulldogs. A nice bonus, especially when you lose the pistol, but you pick up the 2 after the nice 4 spy. They knew the situation they were in. They knew they couldn't lose that second round, and they opted to take that risk, and the risk gets paid off well. The reward is significant. BABYBAY, a quick smoke onto his feet, keeps the recon bolt from spotting him out, and perhaps even furthermore the owl drone, which hasn't even gone his way. BABYBAY, what can he get from this one, though? This could be actually perfect timing. He could easily wallbang here. Does he go for it, though? Yes, he does, and it's only attack. This man's on 1 HP. That was a headshot, but Rawkus finishes it off regardless. A great combination of utility and skill out towards the A side, but huynh, his dash has opened up this C site, and while they've got that first kill on the A side, it's all going down on the opposite side of the map, and another 3v3 retake.
Spike planted.
Oh my god, it just never ends. Thing is, too, on paper, I felt like FaZe should have been able to take that one. Unfortunately, the wallbang headshot isn't quite enough to finish the job onto that poor Sova, who's just trying to stay alive for dear life. Unfortunately, they will fall at the end of it, and this is all going to ride, I feel like, on BABYBAY to try to, again, make space for his team. But those knives don't find anything. The only thing that is found is by... never mind! It is by BABYBAY, but it's by a jumping classic? Really? It's not by the knives? It's not by the Vandal? It's by the little sidearm that you get by default? Sure, whatever. If that works for you, BABYBAY, you know how to blow my mind.
You know,
FaZe
I
love
feel
their
like we have to use this pawn. The next time that BABYBAY has an insane play, just, you know, oh, baby, a triple. Oh, that's it. That's the fun we need. I've been thinking about it. I was just thinking about being so bland and basic and just saying, oh, baby. But I forgot the oh, baby, a triple. Maybe we got to use him the next time he gets a 3K. I mean, he hasn't had too explosive
You
of
have
a
to
game
put on
so
like
far,
the
but...
kid's voice for it as well.
Oh, the kid
like
voice.
that. Yeah.
Like when you're in a CSGO DM and the lady screams whenever you get like a 4K.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like from the original video. You know,
Yeah. Okay, we'll go for that. As soon as BABYBAY gets a triple, we know exactly what we're going for. But to make it not caster cringe, we won't do it in the shot. I am basically a child. We're trying to keep it less cringy. GMD, ooh, nearly finds an opening. Marved on a sliver of HP. No longer does he have that. Goes down, and I think that's basically the C site. It's drawn a rotations over, and Gen.G, despite that explosive start, despite that first frag, are not pouncing upon it and staying calm under the pressure.
And this is what I love as well. Gen.G, it reminds me a lot of what we saw back with the FaZe roster, where they did play these incredibly slow defaults. GMD, sometimes huynh would look for early kills. Not so much huynh in this case, but most definitely you saw it from GMD right there. And when you have someone confidently winning your gunfights like GMD is, top of the server at the moment at 19 and 11, that's something you can kind of actually rely on. And it's going to do them a lot of good. Eventually, they will actually push their way onto the C site, kind of baiting out rotations from the FaZe side, who wasn't quite sure where they should be, moving their positions to. But already, this looks incredibly good. There's still 3 ultimates on the board. Sure, BABYBAY will find that opening kill, but MkaeL, or MkaeL, I have to make sure to get that alias right, in particular has a really important spot for this post plan, and FaZe just have to save. There's absolutely no choice that they had, especially so after they lost 2 to MkaeL right there.
MkaeL, potato,
MkaeL.
potato, basically the same thing. I've actually been curious, like, is it pronounced MkaeL? I'm pretty sure it's because French Canadian and all that. I'd imagine
sure.
Is. Okay, I'm just making sure because I always have issues. Like whenever Gus and I are casting like a Brazilian team, I'm always just sitting there trying to copy whatever he says. So I'm very bad with pronunciations. I'm very bad with spelling. I'm actually bad with a lot of things, but we make it work. Anyways, FaZe 5-round lead, still holding on to it. Gen.G hold on to those 4 ultimates. The ult economy, it's about to come around the corner here for FaZe. They can get on to that showstopper, and more importantly, I think the lockdown, and they can really just, as the name says, lock down an entire site. It makes it a lot easier because Gen.G, they've been going back and forth between sites. They've been really transitioning from C to get that early pick. They wait, they bide their time, and they fake it. So can FaZe really kind of counter that play with that lockdown? I think they can, and that's going to be an important factor to get them onto that 12th round as Gen.G, now they're starting to build this momentum, and it gets a little bit scary with MkaeL and both huynh trying to open things up. It's only the one for huynh, though, off the operator, but that's weakened this A site defense and leaves Rawkus to his own devices.
I think it's also important to mention for the side of FaZe, maybe not this round, but Marved has that teleport as well, which means that a lot of the time they can gamble on, a stack over towards A and try to maybe snuff out GMD early. You can tell that Marved, right at the beginning of the round, was actually towards C, and I think that might have been as a bit of a counter towards some potential aggression from Gen.G. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe that's just kind of me being a little bit conspiratorial, but either way, I noticed that, and FaZe are still making these micro adjustments, even on rounds that I feel like otherwise, again, they wouldn't have any business winning. The rifle is doing work, however, from FaZe, and that is incredibly important. Rawkus is able to find one off of it. BABYBAY still has that operator in hand, but otherwise, it's a classic and a sheriff that's going to go ahead and do all the justice for FaZe in this round here, and it might not even have the chance to get past the finishing line, the starting line even, as Gen.G, they have a firing range set up on the A-bomb site, and they will easily dismantle of everything that FaZe were banking on heading into this round.
I mean, I guess the silver lining is they did draw out the Empress from Shawn. I don't know how much that's going to play into this next round. Shawn had definitely found his groove. He's found his form in the second half. It shouldn't be too hard for him to get the ult up again. But FaZe, this is where the turning point is, I think. 3 ults. Marv's TP, like you mentioned. You can easily fake a rotation. You can get that information if he wants to. Try and draw Gen.G out of the cave that they've been holding on to or holding inside of in the early stages of these rounds. And FaZe, it needs to be more explosive. It seems like they've calmed down a little bit, right? They're not getting as aggressive as we used to know. They're not like their former attacking side. And here, maybe this is what they need. Marv trying to find an opening. He's going through everything, hell and back to get that frag, but it won't matter at all. As 4 players now fall for the side of FaZe, and Gen.G continue to rise. And this round seems already poised to go to their side.
It seems like it, but Rawkus might be able to get away with a good gun here, if nothing else. It doesn't have the makings of a potential win at all. I think that's just kind of obvious to say.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way,
Yeah.
1v4.
I mean, hey man, you never know. But Phantom is relatively close by, excuse me. And player 1, this kind of feels like a bit of an unusual position for him to be in. I don't feel like I normally see player 1 in kind of a anchor/lurk position like this all too often. I don't know why, but it's fitting to see him there. It's going to be good to maybe catch out Rawkus if you want to be a bit more adventurous and push through the spawn, or push through mid, maybe trying to capture that downed weapon that Shawn unfortunately had to lose. But
I don't know if it's worth it,
either way,
though,
they're going to be meeting.
because he has the armor, and well, he had the armor.
It's going to
Past
be an ult
tense.
point, I
Yeah,
suppose.
no longer has the armor. At least he gets that ult point. All right, that's all that matters. 2 away from the Hunters here, BABYBAY. 1 away from the Blade Storm. So this is the round for FaZe, right? This is the round. They lose this. Gen.G right on top of them. They're on 10 already. And Gen.G, it'll break the back. The Campbell's back will now be broken in FaZe. How strong is said back? 2 rounds to go to close out this map, and not a lot of cash if they lose this.
I'm going to be staring a lot here at BABYBAY because even if this round is lost, again, you can probably go ahead and look forward to that Blade Storm being a notable factor for FaZe, win or lose. So BABYBAY, I feel like needs to find something here.
Oh, it has to be. Oh, missed shot, doesn't connect it, but Marved is quick on his feet, and once more, huynh hungry to take that trade back, and Marved is shut down, nearly has the head of huynh as well. But for now, FaZe, they've got that opening pick, but at what cost? They've taken the C side. It feels like no way Gen.G can work their way back in, especially with BABYBAY lurking around with that operator. Picks up a second, and once more, the X Factor has arrived for FaZe. At long last, Gen.G are put down on the offensive.
Takes a while, but again, sometimes the operator is such a big change of pace. You saw both Jetts actually being probably the most silent pieces on their team so far. Near the bottom of the scoreboard for the two, both sitting at 10 kills, but kills don't mean everything. Quite obviously. If you want to look at kills, Rawkus has definitely got a good amount of them, and he holds around this corner, and there you are. Now he's going to add another to his tally. Just an ironclad setup.
Perfect. It's all anchored or all spearheaded by BABYBAY, right? Those 2 picks that he finds alongside Marv. Apologies, one of them was his and Marv had the second. It's all spearheaded by that. He doesn't get those frags. Gen.G can basically have free range over the entire map. Again, if BABYBAY and Marv both go down, the round is over. But they have a good setup. They have a good trade potential with Marv pushing as soon as a shot rings out and he takes that frag. So FaZe, 5 ults now. This is the red carpet rolled out. It's going to be a battle of the ultimates to try and keep this one going, Gen.G. They do have the Blade Storm. They have the TP as well from the Omen. They've got the Neural Theft. This is a chance, though, for FaZe. The best chance I think they've got so far to really close out and send this one home with the 5 ults holding on to them.
And I'm really interested in seeing how FaZe decide to adjust their setup as well. Because last time we saw BABYBAY adventuring out towards C and had his teammate right behind him pushing through that smoke and Marved. But now you see he's at the other side entirely, and I was about to say, I think this would actually be a really good decision. Again, looking for these early fights, I think would do them a lot of good. It has, for especially on the attacking side, but even more so towards the end on this defensive end. I really, again, feel like BABYBAY is going to hold a lot of the cards to maybe go ahead and end it right here, right now. That Blade Storm is going to be such a big factor as well. Maybe if a retake comes to fruition, who knows? But FaZe, I think, have a lot on their mind. Definitely using that tactical pause for themselves just as much as Gen.G did. But backs against the wall here. Gen.G are going to try to never say die. That turret is only going to do them a little bit of good in actually stopping the eventual mess that's coming on in. Here's a teleport, here's a Hunter's Fury, and here is a showstopper. But the show will be stopped by ZachaREEE, just holding in Garage. He does it all by himself. A 4-on-2 made into actually a 1-on-4. And poor Shawn has nothing he can do. There's that Blade Storm that I mentioned, but it's going to be nigh useless because quickly and suddenly FaZe benchmark off the back of ZachaREEE finding a wonderful triple will go ahead and allow FaZe to take a 1-0 lead in this series.
A big, big ending for the side of FaZe. A much-needed ending and a great way to close it out. GMD still popping heads, 20-13, an average comment score of 239. Shawn and it feels like huynh were nowhere to be seen this entire series or this entire first map, apologies. And that's not what you want from Gen.G. You're 2 heavy hitters, it feels like, with Shawn stepping in that dual throw from his former Sova role and huynh as well being that Jett. You need these 2 to step up massively. But everybody on FaZe, it seemed to click, maybe besides BABYBAY and Corey, but the other 3 stepped up when they needed, most notably Marved. Big dub here for FaZe, a 13-8 victory on map number 1 of Haven, but map 2 being Ascent, Kieran, it's one of their worst maps in their entire map pool. It's their insta ban, so Gen.G